Could this be the end of WWE? One of the most, if not the most popular wrestling show in the world, possibly the beginning of its downfall. A downfall that started with the retirement of an iconic wrestler who carried the company for so long. With factors such as decreased widespread interest, criticism of creative direction, WWE's viewership has started to decline. At one point, it felt like WWE was too big to fail, but now it's struggling to get the attention it once had. So I will explain to you how WWE could potentially fail, but before that, let me explain how it all started. Back in the day, the behind the scenes and the wrestling secrets were not known to the public, so the audience had to kind of guess the outcome of every match. And the real personality of a wrestler was also unknown, so despite most people knowing that it was fake, it was still entertaining to see. But the other thing that most fans of wrestling did not talk about was the person in charge of the booking decisions. Fans would only boo or criticize the wrestlers, not those making the decisions behind the scenes. The only exception to that would be the hardcore fans who know every detail. Unlike today, everybody knows that every outcome and creative decisions of a story is controlled by the booker, and the one person who made WWE popular because of the booking decisions is Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon's booking style is considered to be great by many due to his ability to create compelling long-term storylines that captivated audiences. He was also known for his understanding of character development, leading to the creation of iconic characters, something that is very important when running a show, and it is also something that Triple H struggles to make happen every day that he runs WWE. But before we get to Triple H, let's talk about Vince McMahon and the differences between the two. So first off, Vince McMahon was more about the business, at least at the beginning. He was more about the business of the show, and he did everything he could to make WWE over with the fans, even if it meant making himself look like the villain or making a fool of himself in live television. So he would do everything he could. Even his daughter, his son-in-law, everybody in his family would probably put in work, make themselves look like the villains, make themselves look foolish on live television for the sake of the show.
Pleasure to be associated with WTBS, and we promise to bring you the greatest in professional wrestling entertainment in the world today.
But this was all straight up business, and from his point of view, from his perspective, he did it for WWE, but he didn't really understand what it was like being a wrestler. And so his booking style was meant more for the fans, for the viewers. It was straight up business. Business meant to bring in money, to bring in new fans and sell the product, right? But now it's different. With Triple H is different because Triple H started off as a wrestler, so his booking style is now more catered to helping out the wrestlers in the business, and it's not really about the fans, or at least it doesn't feel like it's about the fans anymore. It's about helping out the wrestlers within the show. Back then, wrestlers didn't have a salary, right? And he understood what the struggles of being a wrestler and everything they go through, and so he changed a lot of the things that caused wrestlers to try harder, to want to be at the top. So now you getting like the minimal amount of work from wrestlers in the business, so they don't have to work as hard because they're on salary.
And the business is radically changed. The thing with the title too is also it means you made more money. That does not exist anymore. Like, we all make more money now, which is thumbs up. My paycheck was always predicated on how many people were in the building. So I was driven towards ticket sales and the business of it. And when you're in the main events, you got paid more money. And now everyone's just kind of on salary. I always wanted to be in the main event because it got me more money.
So with wrestlers today, at least in WWE, they don't have to work as hard because they're gonna get paid the same. So they don't really care about being at the top or being in the main event, because at the end of the day, they're gonna get paid the same amount of money. And so because of that, because no one wants to try, because no one wants to be better, the roster today is not as good as it was back then. And another thing about this is just how Triple H decided to change the company versus what it was when Vince McMahon was running the show.
Now I don't care if I'm the opening match because I'm still gonna make the same. And
another problem that WWE has is that their top wrestlers are all about to retire. The majority of them are at least on the older side, right? Guys like Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, everybody who is considered to be at the top, like a main event superstar, they're getting old. And before they retire, WWE has to get more talent, or not more talent, they have to produce or create another top tier main event superstar, and right now they don't have that. But back to Triple H. At one point, everybody was giving him the benefit of the doubt. Everybody was saying that he was going to make the WWE better, and this all stemmed from WrestleMania 40 because it was very good, and everything prior to that was very good. And so everybody was hyping him up, and they had so much expectations from him. The only problem is, or at least what people don't know, is that on the lead up to WrestleMania 40, Vince McMahon was actually micromanaging the company. He was still there working in the company for WWE. He wasn't in charge, but he was still managing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. And this is why everything was, in my opinion, this helped balance out Triple H and Vince McMahon in the way that they work, in the way that they book, because on the one hand you have one guy who cares a lot about the wrestlers and wants things to be better for them, and on the other you have another person who wants the best for the business and wants things to keep moving forward, to get better and more popular. For them to work together, it did help the company a lot. But now that Triple H has full control over everything, or at least over the book, you know what I'm saying, the business had changed a lot. If you were watching as a fan, or from the point of view as a fan, some of these changes weren't anything positive, because there were three main problems, or there are still three main problems till this day as I'm making this video. And the first one is short-term booking. Some of the storylines, or at least most of the storylines, are very short. They tend to end very quickly. The second problem is ads. Too many ads in between the matches and even during the matches, which completely make you lose focus, and you don't get that feeling where you're at the edge of your seat or your eyes are glued to the screen. You don't get that. And the third thing is too many PLEs, or premium live events. Because of this, and it directly correlates to what I said about short-term booking or the storylines, is that because there's too many PLEs, every story concludes at the end of the PLE, making them very short. This is just my opinion, and a lot of fans that grew up watching wrestling probably feel the same way about how WWE is today. But there is a theory. I have a little theory. This is purely speculation, and I think that a lot of the money or revenue that WWE brings in is not directly correlated with the fans anymore. But I think that the money that, or the majority of revenue that they bring in, that WWE brings in, is directly correlated to the ads and to their matches in Saudi Arabia. So if you think about it, if the show was meant for the fans, then the fans would be the ones supplying WWE with the most amount of money. That's where their main source of income or revenue comes from. But let's just say that it wasn't the fans who were supplying them with the most amount of money, right? Let's just say that it was a corporation or some very rich person in Saudi Arabia. Then that means that they're not making the show for the fans, but for a certain group of people. And if that's the case, then they have no obligation, or it's not in their best interest to please other people who just don't pay them as much as somebody else, right? So this is just speculation. This is just what I think, because it seems like it's more corporate now than it never was. And the reason I bring this up, or at least mention Saudi Arabia, is because a lot of the PLEs have been taking place there. And one last thing is the John Cena retirement tour. Now, John Cena retirement tour wasn't as good as we thought it was, or at least I think the majority of fans who grew up watching John Cena didn't like how his tour ended. He didn't like how his last match ended. Okay, so what I mean by this is during John Cena's last match, he faced a wrestler named Gunther, and it was received very poorly, or at least the way it was executed was received very poorly, because throughout the years, John Cena's whole shtick, or part of his character, was never give up or never give in, right? So for him and for the fans, it was very weird for him to tap, because he hadn't tapped out in over 25 years. I think it's over 25 years, but it's been a very long time since he did that. And because he did that, it was out of character. And because it was out of character, nobody liked the way it ended. And this was the last straw. This was when fans started realizing that Triple H has been doing a bad job at booking. And essentially, everyone lost faith in him. At least the majority of the fans who still watch the show lost faith in him.
Come on. I'm actually mildly disappointed. I thought it would be so much louder.
You can see that with the average viewership that the show has been getting as of recently. And if you look back at the amount of viewers, the average viewers that they had in the past 2 years, you can tell that it's gone downhill, and it's gonna keep going downhill if they don't fix the majority of the problems that I have listed here. I'm not saying that WWE is gonna come to an end, but it won't be at the top anymore, because for a long time WWE has been the top wrestling show in the entire world. But with a lot of competition like AEW, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and a bunch of other corporations who do pro wrestling, it won't be at the top anymore.